This is Gemara Menachos Daf Samuch Beis, and we're holding the very top of Samuch Beis and Aleph, in which we are discussing the process of tinufa, precisely how it's done. So says the Gemara in the top line, how is the tinufa done? Al pieces yad, the imurim, the parts of the carbon are put in the palm of the hand, and the breast and the thigh is on top of the imurim. And any carbon that has bread, the bread goes even on top of that. So we have a stack of imurim, chazav ishaik, lechem. So heicha, where do we see that the bread is on top? We find this by the miluim. My time. What's the reason for this order? Which seemingly shows us that the chaylev and the chaz is on the top, not the bread on top. So how do you know the order? Amar Abayi, 6 lines down. Ahuda ma'isile koyin. Says Abayi, that second pasuk teaches us that the koyin brings it from the Beis HaMitbachayim, the Rami lay, and he places the fat of the chazeh and the shok. He puts it onto the hands of another koyin who's going to do the tenufa. And that's the reason why, even though you're right, from one pasuk it sounds like they're on top, but then if you put it and you flip it over, now they're on the bottom. The pasuk seems to say the fat is on the breast. That means you're right. You give it to another kohen, and he and he goes and he sacrifices it, he burns it. But we learned, from here we see that what? Hadras Melech. So we have more people involved in the mitzvah. We have one kohen to the next, one kohen putting it on the second one, him flipping it on to the third, and that's where the psukim can be read, and that is how the tenufa is done. We continue the 2 dots, 12 lines down. Tanarabbanan says the Gemara, says the Torah, by the shtei kisvei aseres, 2 lambs of shvuas, the kohen waves it on the lechem abikurim. You should put the lambs on top of the bread. So now we think that the bread goes on the lambs. So says the Torah, no. The Torah is telling us that they're equal. The bread and the kivsei aseres are equal. And I don't know. So the Torah is giving them weighted balance. So which goes on top of which? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you. Just like we find in general, Afkan lechem amala. Eicha, says the Gemara, what do you mean? We always find bread on top. Where's this always? Amra Papa bimi luim. One shot. Rav Yisrael Meshulam Aimer Kvasim Amala says Meshulam, no, the Kvasim indeed go on top of the bread. Umani Mekayim Al Shei Kvasim. How do we do the other pasuk? Loitzi comes to exclude Shiva, the Shiva Kvasim, which are the 7 carbon oilais that have no din of tenufa, that are brought accompanying. Chanina ben Chachinai Omer. You put the bread between the thighs of the lamb. So the first shita was the bread's on top. The second shita is the shnei kvasim is on top. And the third shita, chanina ben chachinai, is that they're basically equal. The bread is between the thighs. Umenif. V'nimsa, it comes out, mekayim shnei mekrayis halalu. Both of these psukim are fulfilled. Lechem al gabi kvasim, ukvasim al gabi lechem. They're both at some level on top. Amar Rabbi says, Rabbi, 1 second. Lefnei belech basar v'dam in front of melech basar v'dam, we wouldn't do this. Put the bread between the thighs of the animal. It's disgusting. Lefnei melech malchei amlochem hakadosh baruch hu. No, can't be. Ella, rather, is like Rabbi, you do. Meiniach zebis hadzeh, you put one next to each other. Uminif. I frek the Gemara is even accomplish anything. One pasuk says the bread's on top. One pasuk says it gives the seres on top. And now you have neither on top. V'abin anal. Amalei Rav Chisda, the Rav Hamnuna, V'amalei Rav Hamnuna, the Rav Chisda. Rebbe L'Taimei at the end of the narrow lines, the Amar al bisamuch, that the word al means next door. Titania v'nasata al hama'areches levoino zako. You put it al on the fire, the mareches levoino zako. Excuse me. Rabbi Yomer, you know what this means? Al bisamach on the first medium line. Atam Rav Samachin al mamish kishomer v'sakoisa al orain es apareches. Rabbi Yomer al bisamach. So says Rabbi, we find different times that the word al does not have to mean on top of, but rather, excuse me, the word al can be next to, and that is how we reconcile the two braces. So three different shitais. How do we deal with the shtei alechem and the kifsei aseres, which is going to be on top? And we continue on the third medium-sized line. Meilech umevi mala umeirid, the process of waving it. Amar Rav Chia bar Rabba, Amar Rav Yechon meilech umevi, going out and going in. That refers to Lamisha Rucha Shalai, refers to Kadosh Baruch Hu, the four directions of the world. Mala umeirid, up and down. The heaven and earth is this. But Marava Masni Yachi, they learned out and in Kirilata Ruchais Ra'is, that comes to ward off the evil winds. Malo Mayri Kilata Tzlolim Ra'im is to ward off the evil dew. On Revisu Ravin Zaisem Eres Shiare Mitzvah Makin Esa Peranias. From here we learn out the Shiare Mitzvah, not the Etzem Mitzvah. The residual, the auxiliary parts of the mitzvah, they prevent the punishments. Why? Amar Rabba, this is maybe where we know this from. The same thing is by lulav, which of course we learned in the Gemara in Sukkah. Ravacha bar Yaakov mamtila umaisila umachvi hachi va'amar. Rav bar Yaakov would bring the lulav out and in, and he would say, Geirei, be'ena desitna, a arrow in the eye of the Satan, indicating that this maisa, seemingly simple maisa of waving the lulav, is indeed destroying the Satan. Says the Gemara, V'lav milsi. It's not the right thing, you shouldn't do this. Because whenever you talk directly to the Satan, I got you, you're provoking the Satan, and you're going to make the Satan bring you, unfortunately, to do more Avira. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbana, let's go back to our Sheikh Vasim, our Kifsei Aseres. Zivchei Shalmi Tzibar Tun Tenufa. The Sheikh Vasim of Shvuis requires Tenufa. Ula'achar Shchita, you do it after you shechted. And Utenufais, Kamai and waving as they are. The entire animal. Divri Rabbi V'chama Imrim B'chaz V'shek. B'may Kamefli. Amalei Rav Chisda. L'Rav Hamnuna. Amalei Rav Hamnuna. L'Rav Chisda. B'doin mina. B'doin mina voki basar kamefligi. A fundamental machlek as do we say doin mina, learn from it and continue learning from it, or do we say doin mina, learn from it, but voki abasra, but place it, hang it back on its original context? What does that mean? Rabban and Savri, 4 lines at the bottom. Mina, learn from it. Now what? When? Umina. So you learn from it, and then you place it on it. Now what? Now let's see the conscience for clarity. Avad, you learn from it, but you hang it back. But we place it back in its own context. That what? By the shlamim. But over here, by the Shalmei Tzibur, Kemais Shein, as they are, Kamoshin B'chaim, as they are alive, meaning the full animal, not just the chaza v'shaik. That's one way of learning the machlekes. So it's the way the machlekes plays out is how do you do the tenufa? But it's more of a fundamental machlekes. How do you learn the etzem mikar? We turn over to Samach Beis and Beis, and Rav Papa Amar T'kuliyama Doimino Mina says Rav Papa, no, everyone holds you learn from it. Who? V'anatayma Rebbe. So what does Rebbe say? You shake it whole. Ki hasa ma asam davar shemasta lekayin avacha davar shemasta lekayin. Says Rav Papa, you know why? Because just like it's something that the kayin waves, just like over there by the Shalmei Tzibor, excuse me, Ki Hasam, over here by the Shalmei Tzibor, that's what we're learning out, right? The Kifsei Aseres is similar to the Shlamim of the Yachid, that the Shlamim of the Yachid is what? Is a gift for the Kayin, which is the Chaz of Ishoik. So too over here, the waving is going to be done on that which is a gift to the Kayin. But what is a gift to the Kayin when it comes to the Kifsei Aseres? Not just the Chaz V'Shaik, but rather the entire animal, and that's why Rebbe says you have to wave the entire animal a kain. Ravina Amar, 4 lines down, the Kulam Adami Navoki Basra Fakert, by the time of the Rabbana, why? Shalmeim Ribu Yehu, it's an extra riboy, and that's why the Rabbanan say you only wave the Chaz V'Shaik. 6 lines down, 7 mitzvahs, 3 items, 3 mitzvahs, smicha, before and after, tenufa, after. Shtayim b'chol achas, each of these 3 require 2. Ushlish ein behen, veilu hein. This is still quoting the Mishnah. Ziv chesham yachid, ziv chesham tzibur, v'ashem etzayer. Those are the 3. Ziv chesham yachid, tunin smicha, chayim, number 1. Utenufa shchutim, and tenufa shchutim. Those are those 2. So the smicha is alive, and tenufa when it's shachted. Vein bem tenufa chayim. There's no tenufa when it's live. Ziv chesham tzibur, tenufa chayim, number 1. Ushchuta, and while it's alive, tenufa, waving both alive and shachted, but vein bem smicha. Hashem Mitzayer, number 3 is smicha tenufa chay, requires the smicha tenufa it's alive, vein bem tenufa shchuta. This was the memra of Rav Shimon in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, why is the 3rd one not? We're saying Zak Rav Shimon, 2 out of 3. Why not the 3rd? Frak the Gemara, v'yu zivchei shalmi yachid, tunin tenufa chayim mikava chaymer. Why don't we say that no, that the 3rd entity should be learned from a mikava chaymer? That what? Uma zivchei shalmi tzibur she'en tenufa tzmicha chayim yet tenufa chayim. Says the Gemara, a very simple mathematical question. We have 3 items. Each one requires 2 things. So learn out the 3rd. Says the Gemara, no. Which says, and again, we're now going to ask the kasha by each of the 3 requiring, the 3rd din. And each one, we're going to get a separate miyut. So now the Gemara asks further. So what's the makar that this one does not have the 3rd? Amar Avina, Gemiri, halacha leMoshe miSinai, shmei smichas b'tzibur. There's only 2 cases of smicha by a carbon sibur. Usually smicha is only by a carbon yachid, not a carbon sibur. And we have a special halacha leMoshe miSinai, Dr. Avina, that in 2 cases, the Baral Davar Shal Sibur and the Ser La Azazel, those are the only 2 times you can have a din of semicha. And finally, on this last narrow line, the Ashem Etzer Tenufa Shachat Kava Chaimer. That one Mazach Sham Yachet Shen Tenufa Chayim Tenufa Shchutin. Ashem Etzer Tenufa Chayim and Adin Tenufa Shachat. Says Mar Mir Rachman Gabi Ziv Sham Yachet Oisai Oisel Mute Ashem Mitzayra. We conclude, says the Gemara Tana Rabbanan, Chamisha Sheviu Karban Echad. 5 people bring 1 karban. Echad meinef aydei kulam. 1 does the tenufa for everyone. Ve'ha'isha, and a woman who brings a karban. Kayin meinef al yada. The kayin does the waving for her on her behalf. Chen shalei karban Yosef Mevdina sends a karban from overseas. Again, kayin meinef al yadai. We'll pick it up for the next Mishnah, B'siyata Dishmaya.